Welcome back to Control. Welcome to I Made Your Mixtape, and welcome to our special guest, Jono.
Hello.
How you doing?
Not too bad.
You doing all right?
Oh, it's Friday.
Yeah. And you're not at work?
Oh, kind of at work. But
Kind of. Oh, yes.
Kind of, yeah. I was at work at 7 this morning, which is pretty hard for a musician.
Yeah.
At the best of times.
Our breakfast girls are in at 7 every morning, so...
Oh, la-di-da.
Wow. Welcome. We always start this off with a little bit about yourself, give it a little bit of context. So do you want to go through what you do, maybe how music is a part of your life here in Palmerston?
Cool. So, I do a few things. I guess people probably know me the most for my name in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Not because I talk a lot, but because I'm a journalist. I write about all sorts of malarkey for the Manawatu Standard, but also about music, which is quite cool. Music journalism, I guess we'll call it, is kind of what I always wanted to get into.
Yeah.
I, got into music in high school, playing in bands, playing instruments, writing songs, amassing a stupid, ridiculously large CD collection. Played when I studied here at Massey as well. I played in a band. I wrote for Chaff, which was a student magazine back then. Did all sorts of stuff for that. Yeah, reviews, gig reviews. I had a cafe review for a while. That was a bit of a laugh.
Just getting to go to a cafe to write a review. Yeah,
yeah. Why not?
You're going to turn into our Simon Sweetman of Palmerston North, are you?
Oh, kind of hope not.
I hope not as well.
No. Maybe I don't know. Maybe for booze writing or something like that.
True.
Yeah, not for music writing.
Lay down the law for the booze writing.
Yeah. But music's always been pretty important. It's kind of been, when you're at uni and you're studying all day, it's always nice to kind of, get some kind of perspective or, everyone has their hobby, and mine's been music, playing it, listening to it, writing about it.
In all its facets.
Definitely.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Why not let's do a shameless plug right now, but you're currently in a band who's set to play their first live show tonight.
Yeah. I'm called Man in Rug. I'm not quite sure where the name came from. It's me, mate Jules, and Harry Lilly, which people might know.
We'd know
from
up here at Control.
Harry the Hippie on Mondays. Yep. And playing on concourse a lot and stuff like that. So playing tonight at the Stomach. Which is cool. People should get down. People need to support the Stomach.
Get on down, but also you can listen in on Control because we're broadcasting that one live to air.
I'll try not to sing too loud for you all.
Oh, no, that's plenty okay. Well, we've got some tunes that some people are going to sing for us.
Yes.
They sang them a while ago probably, and we can just play the recordings of those.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So let's start at the top. Great place to start with Queens of the Stone Age, No One Knows. Tell us a little bit about why you picked this one. So I started learning drums. Drums is my main instrument. I started learning it in high school, pretty much in fourth form, year 10 they call it these days. Yeah.
These days. You had to do art or music, and I failed third form art, so I had to do music. There was no choice. And I was like, well, drums look pretty cool. Yeah. And so I just kind of took them because, there was something to do. And then
got to hit stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then this album came out that same year. The album Songs for the Deaf that this is on. Yeah. And it had Dave Grohl on it, and I remember seeing the music video and being like, that guy's a beast. Yeah. Drums isn't just doof, 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 doof. They can actually be really badass. And so that's kind of when I really fell in love with playing drums. This was when Dave Grohl messed with my head on this track.
Fantastic. And most people probably consider it quite a classic album as well.
Definitely.
Especially if you're a Queens of the Stone Age fan, obviously. But across the board, people, Songs for the Deaf is the one that hooked a lot of people.
Exactly. It's kind of the album that blew them up big. Yeah. And quite deservedly as well. It's a really eclectic album full of just kick-ass rock tunes and great place for any drummer to start.
Exactly. And this is probably the one that people know the best from Queens of the Stone Age as well, which is cool. It is called No One Knows, and we're going to listen to it right now. Right on.
Buenas tardes, señoras y señoritas. Aquí está el DJ Héctor Bonifacio Echeverría Cervantes de la Cruz Arroyo Rojas. Esta es la radio Quetzalcóatl, la estación donde el rock vive y no muere. Vamos a escuchar un par de temas de Queens of the Stone Age. Primero vamos a escuchar First It Give It. Qué música impresionante, temible y verdaderamente ahora. Van a ver, aquí va.
Gotta leave that outro in there.
Of course. Album versions are great.
Yeah, fantastic album version. All right. That was a bit of Queens of the Stone Age. We're starting with that because that was kind of the start for you in terms of how music caught you.
Yep, definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
And a nice progression on from Queens of the Stone Age is this next guy, Mark Lanigan.
Yeah, a lot of people would have heard Mark Lanigan, but probably not know who he is. If you've listened to Queens of the Stone Age, you would have heard this guy. He's the guy who sounds like he's been smoking cigarettes since he was conceived. It's absolutely insane.
That's tough to do as well.
Oh yeah.
So the track we're going with is
methamphetamine.
Yeah, let's just call it methamphetamine blues.
Yeah. If he was a Kiwi, they would just call it P blues.
Yeah, true. P blues. Tell us about that one.
So, pretty much, I got into Queens of the Stone Age, and what I tend to do with bands is when I discover them, I obsess about everything. Mm-hmm. And so, Martin Lanigan sings on a lot of Queens of the Stone Age songs. Yeah. So I was like, let's get into this guy. And so I did, and I listened to him for ages. And then when I moved to Wellington to study journalism, I ended up having the craziest night. And part of it was seeing this guy live in Bodega. Yeah. It was quite frightening. He was standing kind of an arm's length away from me. Yeah. He's like a guy who's been to prison at 19 and covered in tats and generally lived extremely hard.
What does this guy look like?
He looks like, there's a clip of him on YouTube singing Song for the Dead by Queens of the Stone Age, and he looks like Lucifer. He's in red light, and it's frightening. He's a scary man. The whole time I was like, this is great, but don't kill me. Yeah. But and that kind of and he really impressed me as well, because at the time solo artists to me were John Mayer, and this was back when he was ultra pop John cheesy. Mayer. Yeah. And so it was there can be a solo artist who's a bit kick-ass. Yeah. And on this track as well, it's a bit nice link as well. Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age, well, kind of is Queens of the Stone Age. He plays drums on it as well. Yeah, and they recorded it at their crazy Vegas studio. Yeah.
That we all wish we could go to and
just
at, but we can't.
No, we can't.
All right. Well, let's get into that one. This is let's just call it P Blues, Methamphetamine Blues, by Mark Lanigan. Nice full circle connections there.
Indeed.
Right on.
Sure.
So soon.
There's only a few ways you can get a voice like that, eh?
Smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
A lot of cigarettes.
A lot of whiskey.
A lot of hard living.
Yeah, hard living for sure. Mark Lanigan there with Methamphetamine Blues, spelt quite weirdly, so if you're looking for that one...
Yeah. Just look for Mark Lanigan. Mark Lanigan and Blues.
You'll find it, I'm sure. But yeah, very cool one. That was the one group... band I hadn't heard today, so it's very cool to get introduced to that.
Yes, new stuff's always good.
Yeah, he sounds like an interesting, kind of slightly evil kind of man.
Yes, looks like an evil man.
Yeah.
yeah, but apparently a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like most of them are.
Most of the angry looking men. Actually, men. Yeah. Some of them.
To a point.
To a point, yeah. When they're in music, quite often.
Yes.
Not just every angry man on the street is the nice guy. Be careful of that. Next up, I'm going to use the proper pronunciation. I was teaching someone this. Björk. So imagine it's a Y and a U instead of a J and an O.
Oh, that's handy. That's what the dots are all about.
Yeah, that's what the dots and the Icelandic-ness is about. So, Icelandic Princess Björk, her track Oceania. Tell us a little bit about Björk and why you picked this one.
So, it kind of leads on quite nicely, because after getting into Mark Lanigan and stuff in high school, came here to Massey. Massey up here in Palmy, and did a Bachelor of Communications. I was like, I'll be a journalist, and you've got to do a degree before you do your postgrad. And started writing for Chuff and started doing CD reviews, which was great, because it's great, I have an excuse to,
listen to music,
to invest that study link money.
Yeah, true.
And buy new CDs. And I went through a huge phase of being into electronic music. Kind of blamed Concord Dawn's cover of Raining Blood by Slayer for that. Yeah, I heard that and I was like, wow, electronic music's cool. And so I got into Björk. But I picked this one because this is off my favourite album of hers, Medulla. And it's, apart from a couple little drum machines and some synths, bass synth, everything's done with vocal. So all the drums, per se, are beatboxing. All the background is choirs and stuff.
And this isn't the one with the video with the cats, is it? Okay, we'll talk about that later. It might be.
This video has jellyfish in it.
Okay.
But yeah, this song was commissioned for the 2004 Olympic Games.
Yeah.
But I discovered it, a bit later on in time because, I didn't really appreciate this crazy Icelandic princess wobbling away.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, people need to listen to more Björk. It's, every time you listen to it, every time I listen to even this track, I find new stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really inspiring for someone who hits things to kind of think of different ways to
make those sounds.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Yeah. All right, let's kick into that one. Here is Björk's Oceania. We're from Oceania.
We are.
Indeed. Here it is.
One breath away.
Beautiful tune.
Thank you.
Björk's Oceania. Yeah. We did find out what the cat thing was. It's not this song.
But it is off the same album.
It is off the same album.
There's some nutty beatboxing in the middle of it.
Yeah, and actually, just a nutty lady in general. Tiny.
Tiny and crazy.
Tiny, crazy. Most shows she doesn't wear shoes, I believe.
Yeah.
Not really a fan of shoes.
Yeah, she should do well here in New Zealand.
Yeah. If you're ever looking to learn a bit more about Björk or really want to see something very cool from her, she does this thing at the Union Chapel. Which is it's on YouTube if you can find it. I'm pretty sure it's kind of buried, but it's basically her with a proper Icelandic choir, or choir or whatever and a bunch of crazy instruments, and her just wandering around in this chapel. She's got a wireless mic on. She just wanders up and down the aisles of this of this church and sings, and it's a good way to catch a bit of Björk. So. If you're interested, if you like her, even if you don't and you want a reason to like her, that's a good one to go for.
Definitely.
So next up, another one that I had a bit of a stage on, because we were talking earlier about how a lot of these bands are like ones you have a bit of a binge on when you find them you really like, and you get all the albums and find out all about them and look at all the B-sides and things like that.
Yeah, all the side projects.
Yeah, exactly. And this was one of those ones for me. I think I went from At the Drive-In to Mars Volta. Were you?
I went the other way.
This
was the first Mars Volta. This comes off the Bedlam and Goliath. It's the first Mars Volta album I ever kind of listened to,
right?
And then I just went crazy from there. Because we were talking about Simon Sweetman earlier, and I saw a review he did of this album, and he just gushed about it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, he kind of knows what he's on about, because people slag him off so much, but he's
just opinionated.
And he'll just throw his opinion out there.
Yeah, and
he's ultra honest.
He's not afraid of putting his opinion out there.
Definitely, and he's a great writer too.
Yeah.
I really rate his stuff. Yeah. He's kind of,
even if you don't agree.
Even if you don't agree, it's very well written, and I think a lot more people need to kind of think of that.
Yeah, recently I think he said, was it Japan Droids was the worst show he'd ever seen?
Yeah, he said it was just,
Which is interesting. Probably offended a lot of people, but that's his opinion.
Yeah, I quite like that band.
Yeah.
But, yeah, definitely. And so, and this is another band I discovered while doing music reviews here as well. I was like, they did a review. Chaff doesn't have a review. I'll do a review.
Yeah.
Yeah, it ended up, a nice kind of cycle. Yeah. Not that I just always copied the reviews he did.
Yeah. No, and you don't have to copy his opinion either a lot of the time.
Yeah, and this also helped, music-wise, because I'd got quite bored of music for a while.
Yeah.
Especially drumming, and then you listen to this, and it's it's kind of like my Dave Grohl moment with No One Knows all over again.
Yeah.
I was just like...
You can't be bored, especially as a drummer listening to...
No. I used to kind of try jam this album front to back, and I'd probably get to track 6 and I'd die.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd just
fall over and...
I just fall into the drum kit and be like, I've had enough of life. I don't know how this guy does it for 2.5 hours every night.
Because this was the first one they got a new drummer,
Thomas Pridgeon. Yeah. He's an absolute beast. He looks like Animal off the Muppets, but he's black and got the coolest dreads.
Yeah.
And
he just shakes them around. And before that it was Theodore?
Yep, Theodore, who plays with Queens of the Stone Age these days. Yes.
Right.
I think.
Possibly.
Wait, or is that a different guy? They've gone through a few. Because
he was the one that inspired... did a lot of inspiring drumming for me. As the first drummer.
Yeah. No, he is now playing with Queens of the Stone Age.
Right.
He played one track on the new album, but he's their touring drummer.
Look at that.
And circles all over the show.
He didn't even know.
Yeah.
So this one's Wax Simulacra. Simulacra?
Oh, I've got no idea. That's how I say
Wax
it.
Simulacra. Why this one?
Because it's only 2.5 minutes long and it pummels you in the face. It's kind of...
You could pick a 10-minute long
It's like trying to race a cheetah or something like that. Yeah.
All right. Here is an attempt to race a cheetah. The Mars Volta with Wax Simulacra on Control. Two minutes of madness.
2 minutes of madness and a saxophone solo at the end.
Yeah.
Don't have to be in the Bing Turkey ensemble to love saxophone.
Exactly. You do not. Goliath is straight after that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Great
my favourite
track.
tune off the album.
Great track. It just grooves so much.
Especially those two, one after another.
Yeah.
They don't really let you rest
No.
in that band until they actually let you rest. So
until they stop.
Yeah.
And,
and just have some weird ambient.
Water.
Yeah. That's their vibe.
Yeah, speaking of weird ambient.
Speaking of weird ambient, look at us go, man. It's like we planned it or something. Next up is another one that I'm quite a fan of. A little bit of Russian Circles, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. Is it a Russian word?
I think it's Mladic.
Okay, is it a Russian word?
Yeah.
Are they Russian?
No, they're not Russian. They're from America, but they named the song after their Russian tour van driver.
Right.
Through Europe.
Mladic.
I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. Anyway,
Yeah.
I've probably got
You'd
terribly
be better
long.
at it than me.
Like, I probably don't even say my own last name right. So I went and, like, after Mars Volta and all their craziness, still buying more music and getting into lots more bands. And I've gone to Jacob for a while, which everyone should listen to. It's probably
New Zealand's
New Zealand's most probably underrated band.
Yeah, could be. They don't do a lot. Like they do awesome stuff, but they're not as in everyone's faces as some other bands, which is why they get overlooked. I think
exactly
a little bit.
But when Tool comes, who opens for them? Jacob.
Obviously,
who,
Jacob, yeah.
When Russian Circles come, they open for Jacob.
Yeah.
Which is, pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I guess it goes quite nicely because someone who I met through all my music stuff around here, Jem, who did the mixtape last week.
Yep. Was it last week?
I think so.
Yeah. She was last week.
Yeah, which you can check out on YouTube, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So even more circles going there.
All the circles. Russian circles.
Indeed.
And I just saw her at a party one time. I was like, and got talking about Jacob, and I was like, she's like, you need to listen to these bands.
Yeah.
And, there's Mogwai and a few other bands, and Russian Circles was on there. I was like, my last name's Russian, I'll check them out. And, again, just got totally blown away.
Yeah.
Their drummer, Dave, big crazy last name, I'm not even going to try to say it.
Just pretend it's Russian.
I think it might be, to be perfectly honest.
Wow.
It's got a few Zs in there, so that...
Definitely could be.
He's an absolute beast.
Yeah.
Again, he plays, he doesn't use crash cymbals, he uses rides.
Yeah.
He's got like a big 27-inch cymbal, and he's insane. But the thing I like about Russian Circles is that they're totally instrumental, which is kind of the opposite of that Bjork track.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of kind of emotion in their music as well, which I think a lot of people kind of miss in instrumental music a lot. You listen to Jacob and it can get a bit drony, but Russian Circles is a bit more movement, and it's quite nice.
I guess people who don't listen to a lot of this sort of stuff often think that you need words to get a feeling from a song, and there's plenty of bands that will prove you wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Such as Russian Circles.
Yeah, and who was the last band who played at Swamp Fest last week?
Last week, Gaines.
Yeah, and Gaines are the same thing. They're a cool local 3-piece instrumental act.
Yeah,
and same thing. You get so much emotion and feeling out of their music,
and you're not watching it going, why isn't there a vocalist?
Exactly, it doesn't need it.
Yeah,
and big fan of that.
Yeah, for real. So we'll go with Mladic by Russian Circles here. Why this track in particular?
It's off their latest album. They've got another album coming out in a month.
Yeah.
But this comes off their release from last year, Empros, and I just really like it. That's easy as that. Yeah, it's just got a really cool drum group.
Well, that's plenty of reason for me. Here is Russian Circles with Mladic. More album versions.
More outros.
More outros.
Gotta love them.
People should do more outros, man.
They're good.
That one was kind of noise.
Yeah.
That's what they could
sounds like a casual tui in the background or
yeah,
something.
Exactly. That was a 7.5 minute epic, which a lot of their stuff is. But but you don't get bored.
No, which is important.
And if you're going to play for 8 minutes, you got to make sure people aren't going to get bored. So another reason why people maybe overlook that sort of music is like, oh, it goes on for so long. It's like, no, you just listen.
Yeah.
Properly listen. Devote a bit of attention to it, and you'll see you won't get bored.
Definitely. Great study music too.
Yeah,
I got to say, you just chuck it on, and like, because words distract so much.
No one's talking.
You end up writing about math, and then if I don't know, you'll throw
love songs in there.
Yeah, love lyrics in there. You don't want to write love letters to your lecturers.
No,
that might get you and them in trouble.
It'll come off very strange. A final track. We're going back close to home. Now,
definitely,
very close to home. To home, in fact,
definitely.
Not just close to home. With Skeptics.
Definitely, probably one of the most important palmy bands I've discovered in probably the last half a year.
Yeah,
because the first time I heard Skeptics was when I lived in a flat and like would party on Saturday night, and like C4 would have those kind of top 100. Jazz or I don't know, top 100 songs with animals in the video clip.
Yeah,
and they had one top 100 most controversial music videos.
Yeah,
I was like, oh great. Well, I was like, okay, well Smack My Bitch Up by The Prodigy, that's got to be number one. And it was number 2, and I was like, oh, what's going to be number 1? And then AFCO by Skeptics came on.
Palmy was number 1.
Yeah, and if you don't know, it's on YouTube, and essentially it follows a lamb from the field through a slaughterhouse. Yeah. And you see everything.
Yeah, no everything. Holds barred.
And Skeptics frontman Dave Diath covered in like cling wrap and fake blood.
Yeah.
Doing some kind of weird Tai Chi. That's tomato sauce, I don't know. But it's
he was in a slaughter. Well, someone was in a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
It could be
really funny story to that. They ended up filming because like this young guy let them in, and then they ended up having like go out the side door and escape in a Morris Minor because management got wind of it.
Right.
Yeah. Apparently it was absolutely.
It's odd that they don't want people to see that.
Yeah, considering it's it's a part of everyday life. You eat a cow or a sheep.
Yeah.
You know where it's been.
That happens 1,000 times to fill your supermarket shelves. So
indeed. Yeah.
Kind of need to know.
Don't hate where your meat comes from. Yeah. Anyway,
but that's AFCO. So that's just your introduction to the Skeptics.
Yeah. And they're just a really important band. When they were in Palmy, in like the mid '80s, they established a venue behind Square Edge in town called Snail Clamps.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't really much around for like non-pub venues, and that ran for a few years. They ended up moving to Wellington. Snail Clamps shut down. But that was kind of the catalyst for the Stomach,
right?
Which celebrated its 25th birthday this month, which is pretty out of it.
It's a long time.
I think a lot of people don't, they're like the Stomach's here and don't realise just where it came from.
Yeah,
and like it might be drawing a long bow, but if there was no Skeptics, there was possibly no Stomach.
Possibly, you never know.
Definitely, and
butterfly effect for you.
And their album, and the Skeptics, they're not just some crazy palmy band either. Like Roger Shepard, who founded Flying Nun, says their album Amalgam is his favourite Flying Nun release, and they definitely don't sound like a Flying Nun band.
No.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't say that lightly either.
Hell no.
So
there's a movie that got released probably a few weeks ago called Sheen of Gold, which is a doco on the Skeptics by Simon Ogston, and I interviewed him for that. And it's such a good film. Hopefully it comes out on DVD.
Yeah.
And it's every single musician who comes through Palmy should watch it because they're just such an important band. And even if you don't really like the music or get it, you should at least get their ethos, which was we're just gonna make things happen.
Yeah.
Like they made amazing music off synths back in the day when you had to store your sounds on like 3.5 floppies. and stuff like this. Absolutely insane kind
floppy
of stuff.
disk to the
but
gig.
Such a good band. And so that kind of links back into like, I love them musically, but kind of where I've come as a writer as well, because now my music journalism is about writing about Palmy bands.
Yeah.
And, Palmy music history, which is quite cool.
That's very cool.
There's a lot of stuff to dig up here still, and I'm looking forward to doing it.
For sure. All right, we're gonna play this one real quick. We're gonna say goodbye after this one. Agitator.
Yep.
Quickly, why were we picking this one?
People hear AFCO, and it sounds like John Toogood from She-Hard called it like playing Ace of Spades by a Flying Nun band on mushrooms.
Yeah.
But Agitator's probably more what they're like. Great, electronic bits, really emotional.
Yeah.
Great vocal as well. And I reckon it's their best song. It's kind of their epic, I reckon.
Cool. So it is a little bit epic, 6 minutes and 42 seconds.
Yeah.
But that's all right. Well, the last track for a major mixtape. We'll come say goodbye straight after this. Here it is, Skeptics with Agitator. More outros.
That's
All
the
the
theme of
outros.
today.
That wraps us up. Thank you so much for coming in, Jono.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And next week we have Alex Jones in from our hip-hop show. So
Nice.
don't expect just hip-hop, though. I can almost guarantee one particular band, but I won't spoil anything. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All the best for the show tonight. Make sure you head on out to Swamp Fest.
Or listening on Control.
Yeah, or listening on Control. We're going to go out with a little bit of Nareens. Why not?
Sure.
I'm sure you'll approve of that.
Of course.
This one here is called Future Music. You're on Control.
A mouthful of steam.